Welcome to Exploration Tech, how to build a digital project team. We are always excited when we can get time with Eric Dingeldein because I know how busy he is because I'm the one keeping him busy, but happy to have him here today. As always, my name is Jared Hecker. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at Brilliance. I've been here for about 5 years and excited to be going through a topic that clearly is of interest to many out there today. Lori?
A little bit about me. I started Brilliance more than 20 years ago. My background's in computer electrical engineering. I ended up at NASA Johnson Space Center as a flight controller for the space shuttle program through an internship. I ended up meeting my husband there. He went to work for Rockwell Automation eventually, which landed us in Milwaukee through a job promotion that he had in 1998. And I was trying to figure out what could be as cool as space. And I decided to start a web development company. And that's been a super fun journey. Along the way, we've grown quite a bit. We're now a team of 18, and my husband left his job at Rockwell, and now he leads our development team. And another fun part of our growth story is that we're lucky to have Eric on our team as well, who also worked at Rockwell Automation and has been on at Brilliance. I'm forgetting, Eric, has it been 2 years? Has it been more? 3? It's been great. It's been great.
Close to 3.
And Eric serves on our leadership team as our director of project and product management. And we as an organization focus on helping manufacturers and distributors implement digital commerce solutions. And a lot of times as a part of that, organizations are thinking through how they create a great team to support this. And so I'm really excited about the conversation we're going to have today about creating digital project teams. And Eric, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Eric Dingeldein. I'm the director of products and projects here at Brilliance. As Lori mentioned, I did meet Dave and Lori a while back when I worked at Rockwell. Actually, Dave was my first ever, boss after college. And we actually became pretty good friends when we did work at Rockwell. And when he left, we kept in touch. And I was happy when we found an opportunity for them to bring me on to Brilliance, and it's been a fun ride ever since, and definitely learning a lot, and love the things that we're doing here at Brilliance.
All right. So, Eric, defining roles and responsibilities seems like something that most organizations probably know. This is something we should do. But can you talk about what do we mean when we're talking about roles and responsibilities at Brilliance?
Sure. Before I get into that, I think one of the key elements when you're looking at your roles and responsibilities is actually starting by looking at the processes and procedures you've put in place as a company. Using Brilliance as an example, we pride ourselves on the process that we put in place. We practice it with every client that we work with, from marketing to sales to project kickoff to go live, and then to finally on to support. And once you have that process in place and what those key tasks are to complete those processes, you really then want to start looking at, okay, what are some of the roles I need to put in place, and what responsibilities should I give to those roles in order to basically complete these tasks that I have now established in our processes. In the end, what you're really trying to do is identify everyone that's involved in this process exactly what they should be doing. You're also ensuring, hey, I got this foolproof process, but I need to make sure everything is getting done in this process or it kind of falls apart. So once you define your responsibilities, that ensures that everything is getting done. You also find that when everybody knows what they're doing, it creates a really good team dynamic because you don't have gaps where individuals don't really know what they're doing or need help figuring out what they're doing. In the end, that also eliminates wasted time. So you're not doing something that you're like, I don't know if I should be doing this. And then you're doing it and you're like, you didn't need to do that. I'm not sure why you're doing that. Having these defined roles and responsibilities really takes the pressure off, making sure that everybody's doing the right thing. Gaps in processes can really hurt an organization, hurt a project. And having these defined really fill those gaps and eliminates those issues.
So a couple of weeks ago, we had our annual roles and responsibilities meeting. Can you touch on what that was? Maybe that's something that'd be of value to the audience today.
One of the things we realized is once you establish these roles and responsibilities, you want to be able to make sure that you're communicating that to the team. So we'll touch on this, like exactly how we documented the roles and responsibility and the processes that we use. But we try to get the teams together annually and refresh, like, here's the roles and responsibilities. And it's a really good time to say, has something changed in our processes? So do we need to re-examine? Maybe there's some responsibilities that we don't have covered that we've established with process updates. And so it's a really good time for the team to interact and talk through it. Make sure everybody's really comfortable as a person in that role, and you see a responsibility out there and you're not quite sure what it is, or you're not comfortable with it. You can ask questions, get some clarifications, and really make sure you're comfortable in that. The other times is as you're hiring new employees, I think one of the best things to do after they get their feet wet is sit down and walk them through the roles and responsibilities. It not only gives them a great understanding of what their role is and what their responsibilities are within the company, but you can also start seeing, oh, hey, Eric's in this role. Oh, this is what he does. Oh, that's great. I know exactly who I need to talk to if I need to get this done or I need to help on this. So it really builds that team picture when you're onboarding. And then the third piece of it is when we're talking about when we're starting new projects, you want to make sure that within these projects that people understand what their roles and responsibilities are in the project, because you may have standards across the organization, but every project can be different. So you want to make sure those are set. So I think those are the three key times, and it never helps. You can sit around a water cooler and talk roles and responsibilities all day if you really want to. I know it's an exciting topic.
We often work with manufacturers and distributors who likely have processes and roles and responsibilities defined in areas of their business already in terms of how they're producing their product or how they serve customers. We're specifically talking about digital project teams, which is a really interesting thing to consider is like, how do you take this process-minded approach? For many organizations, what is a new strategy? And for many of the people who you'll be inviting to be involved in these processes, that's going to be something new to them. And so really, I think it just increases the importance, like you're saying, Eric, of having these processes in place, of having it defined who's going to do what so that people are clear on their role.
What I love about our annual roles and responsibilities meeting is it's all departments. So you have the sales team, the marketing team, and our operations, all the various aspects of our operations team involved in it. And while we obviously touch during that transition from sales close to project starting, it's rare that we are really interacting more often than that. And so having those conversations in this high level with the whole group to make sure everyone's understanding the changes and has just a complete full picture in mind of our processes has just been incredibly valuable for my team, the sales team and marketing team as well.
Some of the things we're talking today are bigger than digital. It's important to have processes in every area of your business. And to your point, Jared, when we have an understanding of what the processes are on the whole and the roles and responsibilities of the entire organization, we each can be more aware of how we play a part in it and help others to do their role better and think about how we improve. And I think speaks to how when organizations are looking at investing in digital, the reality is digital touches on many areas of their business as well, from their operations to their finance to sales. And so really having a good understanding of both of your current process and the processes you'll be starting is so important. Our target customers, manufacturers and distributors, 20 to 500 million in revenue. They're not the multi-billion-dollar organizations that have huge teams. And us, we're a small business ourselves. So what is the challenge in terms of these roles and responsibilities? And when we think about someone creating a digital team, what's the challenge that exists for a smaller business?
Sure. Taking a step back, when we started looking at this and really defining this process, I think one of the key challenges that I think could be for any business of any size is actually defining the roles that you need to be able to do this. You need to look at what are the skills required to complete these tasks and move the team through these processes. What's the experience needed to do some of these tasks? And some of the issues with that is, as you're defining the roles, have I defined a role that requires too many skills? So if I go out into the marketplace looking for a resource, you're not going to be able to find one because you're looking for somebody with so many different skill talents to fulfill one role that it could be extremely challenged. So you may need to look at that and try to break it down. Maybe it makes more sense that I have two roles instead of this one, and looking at the marketplace and working with your resource supervisors or just talking to other people in the marketplace. They could be like, here's some of the general roles that we see in the marketplace and some of the skill sets that they have. And then also you want to make sure that you don't have a role with a crazy amount of responsibilities, because we all try to work 40-hour weekdays. It doesn't always happen, but we all try to work 40-hour weekdays, and you don't want to give them so many responsibilities that they just can't maintain that work based on hours that they're working. So there are definitely some challenges there in defining that role, but once you get it defined, have those skills identified, have a lock into the resources that are available at that skill set, I think it really helps in building your team. Now, talking about smaller businesses, you may identify roles, has all the right responsibilities, but unfortunately, you just don't have the resources to fill them. And that could be a challenge sometimes with a smaller company. You don't have the luxury that, okay, I could go out and hire this person, this person, this person, this person. You have to hire based on the work that we're receiving from existing clients and new clients. So there is a little give and take there. The other challenge with smaller businesses is, especially in our area, you could have times in the year where we are doing a lot of projects with clients, and there could be times in the year that maybe we only have 1, 2, 3, projects that we're working on. It really depends on where our clients are at, the pace of the market and everything else. So you could have roles that are defined, but they just don't have enough work at a given point in time. Final challenge for a smaller business is turnover really hurts a smaller business. You put a lot of time in to train these individuals, get them to a step, and rely on that experience to help with some of the roles, some of the responsibilities. As a result of turnover, you may not have a resource available that can fulfill some of those responsibilities that require experience. So those are some of the challenges that I've seen, as a resource manager, that I've been facing here at Brilliance, and I'm sure others out there have been too. Just a few examples. In our organization, we've identified that there is a need for a quality assurance role that's testing the work that we've done, making sure the site that we're going to launch is within the quality that the client expects. And so right now, we don't have a dedicated quality assurance team. So what we've been doing is leveraging our business analysts to actually serve as that role of quality assurance. And the reason why we could do that is because when you look at the two roles, some of the skills that are required in those roles are actually shared. And so it was not that difficult to make that transition, which has worked out for us. When we're talking about not having enough work at any given point in time for a specific role, what we've asked is some of our resources to take on multiple roles in certain areas. So one area is in our support processes. It could be serving a lot of clients, but they may not have a lot of work for any given month. So we challenge some of our resources to be able to take on more responsibilities. So that way we don't have, let's say, 3 resources doing little work and not having enough to fulfill their days. And then we have one kind of fulfilling that and then being able to have like a full work week. The other thing we're doing there is we do give leads for those roles. So if that individual has questions or gets stuck on something because maybe their skill isn't there or their experience isn't there, they know exactly who to go to get those answers figured out. And so they don't remain stuck for that long. And it also proves as a good mentoring, experience building technique as well. And then the last piece was the experience gap that could happen with turnover. So one of the things we try to do is we love to mix up experience on the projects that we do and make sure that we can have somebody there that does have the experience so they can mentor some of the other folks in those roles. And it works as, it's kind of like on the job training, which for us, everything's always different. And so that on the job training is actually pretty critical for the experience our teams create. And again, we always have those leads, those people with experience that they can go to and get questions answered. But at the end of the day, every business is going to have different roles and responsibilities. And the ultimate goal is identifying those right roles that not only fit your processes, but also fit your culture and fit the size of your company, fit the size of your department, your group, and so on.
Yeah, that's really good, Eric. And I hope that for those on the call that you can see how Eric's sharing our experiences in our business. But I think many of these things are translate to what our customers are going through in terms of many people are thinking about what roles should they be hiring for potentially, or what roles do they have people internally that could be doing multiple things. And I think to your point, Eric, it all starts with defining like what those roles and responsibilities are, and then trying to look at the resources you have and figure out what the right mix is going to be for you. In our prep, Eric, you shared about the importance of training. How do you find the time and the right way to train resources to have the ability to wear these multiple hats? I know you already spoke to it a little bit with leads and mentoring, but how do you do that?
Yeah, so this is a tricky one. So what I found is a good practice is when you define these roles and responsibilities, you're taking those roles and responsibilities, and that's what you're using as your base search when you're looking for candidates to fill these roles. Going back to a smaller business or a smaller group dynamic, one of the things we do too is when we're out hiring and looking for individuals to fulfill these resources, I also look at some other roles where they have shared skill sets, or maybe potentially skills that are similar to the role that you're looking for. And I like to incorporate in our interviewing process some questions maybe around just to get a feel. Okay, if I hire this person, let's say as project manager, can I get a feel if that person would be comfortable enough maybe taking on some business analyst responsibilities if it ever came to that? And so there's things you can ask to kind of fill that out. And then obviously once you onboard that person, the one thing I'm always very cautious of is take Brilliance as an example. We serve multiple platforms. We help clients on multiple platforms as far as an e-commerce experience. And so it could be overwhelming to say, okay, I brought you on as a project manager. Now I need you to train you on every single platform that we service. I think that could just be very overwhelming and maybe potentially stress a resource out. What I found to be effective is when I bring on a resource, I actually have in my mind that, okay, I want this resource to be our point person, our lead resource on this specific platform. But then I also want them to serve a backup on this other platform or maybe a couple other platforms. So that way, when they first come on, it's like, okay, I want you to be the lead here, focus all your training on here. Here's everything you need, really get them comfortable in that space. And then I think they can utilize that knowledge then to train on some of these other areas. And what it does is it also gives us flexibility as managers, because you may have your resource lead that is completely booked for the next like 3-4 months. But having these other resources that have trained as backups for them, you can now fulfill those project needs and still be able to be effective as a team. Because again, we have leads that serve as mentors, serve as consultants for the other resources. And then it also gives some priority in regards to training. So that way you're not scrambling to try to cover like 50 different things. You have a focus and kind of a trickle down effect of how do I build my training? How do I build my experience? Overall, that helps ramp up our new resources and really get them comfortable in the roles that we're hoping for them to take place in.
And those are all great pieces of feedback and insight. No matter how much we would love to create cookie cutters of all of our clients, they're all going to require different things. They're all going to have nuances to their account specifically. Can you touch on when there are these different needs for our clients, how do you manage that within our standard roles and responsibilities?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is something we've been trying to practice a lot more and more because our clients are so unique and different and have different visions for how they want their e-commerce experience to be for their potential customers on their site, that I think it is vital that when these projects are kicking off or you're getting ready to kick off, that the team itself sits down and really understands the expectations of them within the roles that has been designated for them in the project. In our space, we have project managers or project leads that kind of grab the reins on the project. And it's really important that they understand and be able to communicate, here are the roles that have been set aside, here's the role you're fulfilling, here's the expectation within the project. Now, it may line up perfectly with what we've already set in our overall company roles and expectations and responsibilities, but likely there's going to be some adjustments that you're going to need to make to fit to the scope of the project that you're working on with the client. And then it's really important that the project leads understand the expectations, the resource itself understands the expectations of them, but also the resource manager. Because if you're not all in sync, there could be confusion. You could be giving different expectations to the resource and confusing that resource. So it is very important that that line of communication exists and everybody's on the same page. And I think that will make for a very efficient start to your projects and the actual implementation of it.
Yes, and we're all about efficiency and great communication. So those are really great points, Eric. Is there a tool or a method that you use to manage roles and responsibilities?
We do, and I'm sure at one point everybody's heard of this. It's been around forever, I guess, since I at least been in the business. We use this methodology. It's called RACI, and it's a form or a way to not only track your processes, but track what are the specific roles that you have set up in your company and what are their responsibilities within each of the tasks that you've outlined within the roles. And so I'll show you quick ours. It's not pretty or anything. Maybe that'll be something we do this year, is to pretty it up a little bit. Like I mentioned before, we've taken all the processes that we've established for each phase of our company to basically bring a client in, get the project stood up, get the project kicked off, and go live, and then onto support. We've defined all those processes. There's not a lot of detail, but you could definitely add in detail, but from a roles and responsibility, just covering it at a high level, I think works. And then you could see over here, we've actually defined our roles within the company that will help support these processes. So for us, we have the sales with our account managers. We have a project manager who basically guides and moves the project forward. We have business analysts that their responsibilities are working with the clients, understanding their requirements, being able to translate those requirements and get them into a state that our developers can then pick up and actually start implementing the functionality changes that are required. Some other roles that we've defined is this TA role, which we define as a technical architect. This is someone, I mentioned, all our clients are different, want different user experiences, and sometimes we have to come up with solutions in order for them to allow them to provide those experiences. So technical architect comes in and it can really help with that and really guide the team, guide the clients on how we can do that. And then QA, I mentioned before, from a testing standpoint. And then for us, being an e-commerce web company, we also have the need for a user experience, user interface role that basically locks up and designs how the experience on a website is going to work from start to end. And from a RASCI, I hear people announce it RACI, some people announce it RASCI. I am really not 100% sure, so if I'm saying it wrong, I apologize. But there is a standard RACI where some of the key things you outline is, I think the most important thing is obviously who is responsible for the task. That's the most important thing in a roles of responsibility that you need to identify for the task. And then some of the other pieces are who is accountable for the task, what roles will provide support in completing the task, what roles should be consulted if they get stuck on the task, and what roles should be informed. And to be honest, there are so many different versions of RACI out there. You just need to look at your processes and how involved these roles need to be and just determine what makes sense and what fits best for what you guys are trying to accomplish. So for us, we really focused on responsibility, accountability, being able to support and consult on task, and then being able to inform people as tasks are being worked on and completed. So those were the different states of this that we focused on and allowed our responsibilities to be assigned based on that. I would mention this, the important thing is when you create this, it's not just, okay, I'm done, wipe my hands clean. Because for any good company to grow and move forward, you're constantly looking at your processes, you're constantly looking at ways to improve, be more efficient, get more out of what you are trying to accomplish. So it is important that when you are growing, when you are making these changes, that you're also reevaluating your roles and responsibility tracking. Like I mentioned earlier, you don't want gaps to come into play because it creates confusion, it creates potential for waste of time, it can just cause a hiccup in your process that you don't want to have. Being able to revisit this, and that's why we do the yearly review during onboarding, during kickoffs, because I think it's so important that you're constantly looking at this and making sure that you're identifying gaps and making sure, okay, I have a gap here, this is a new responsibility, okay, who do I think should be responsible for that, who should be accountable for it, who should help get it done. Just always constantly looking at that as you grow, and as this is clear and concise for your resources, it really makes it a lot easier in your projects. It makes it a lot easier for the team to work together. I make it sound so good, but
You make it sound good.
it really does help.
Yeah, it does help. And if there's a hiccup on a project, if there's something that doesn't go right, then it gives us a place to be like, okay, wait, did somebody miss what they were assigned to on it? Or do we need to update our process, right? Is there something we missed in our process? So
yeah,
it's a great driver of conversation.
Well, Eric, thank you for taking time out of your very busy day to support us in Exploration Tech today. And thank you for everyone who joined us. If you have questions or you're interested in learning more about this methodology, how we approach this, and maybe some suggestions you'd have, feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to support you in that. And as always, thank you and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Eric.